So thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'm just going to let this kind of get lit up a little bit. So I'm the Executive Director for West Coast Aquatic Stewardship Association. For those of you who don't know, West Coast Aquatic has three sort of divisions. There's an overarching advisory board comprised of approximately 20 stakeholders. It's a non-legal entity, and they provide direction for such things as a coastal strategy and marine spatial planning. Then in order to conduct the affairs of that advisory group, as they're not a legal body, we have the West Coast Aquatic Management Association with Executive Director Tawny Lem, and the West Coast Aquatic Stewardship Association, which I am the Executive Director for. So Tawny's role is ranges around roundtables, marine spatial planning, and that type of activity. And mine is fourfold. So I just gotta. Our four goals at West Coast Aquatic Stewardship Association are habitat restoration, species enhancement, stewardship, and education. And we have a small board of directors who guides activities, and a large membership base now. So under habitat restoration, over the last 3 years, we've completed several $1 million in projects. We've been involved in doing the Kitsaxis Fishway project, the Roger Street project in collaboration with the city and other partners, the Urban Streams project, the Taylor River project, and we do a lot of other smaller projects. So many homeowners come to us with concerns about the streams in their backyards, and we try to find money for them and expertise and help them to fix those streams. We work in collaboration always with Department of Fisheries and Oceans, First Nations, the city of Port Alberni, the regional district, and others on all our projects. So we just applied for funding to do a project called the Somass Restoration Project, which will be a decade-long project. We'll be kicking it off this Friday at a meeting, and we expect there to be probably about 20 action items that we'll be tackling on that river system. So species enhancement, we work primarily with fish, but we have started to expand to terrestrial species. So one of our big projects is the Chinook Net Pen project. This year, actually, right at this moment, actually, I have staff and volunteers releasing 200,000 Chinook into the inlet. We work with Robertson Creek Hatchery and Nitnat Hatchery to get these salmon, and we rear them for 3 weeks to acclimatize them to ocean conditions, and then we release them. And this increases survival rates in other communities from less than 1% to 2 to 3 to 4%. So we're on year 4 of this project. We'll start seeing returns this year in the fall, and we'll know if this project is having the effect that we hope for. So we conduct everything that we do. We try to do science-based activities that are proven in other communities. We also do fry salvage and species at risk work with the province. So stewardship. So our stewardship activities range from education to stewardship activities in general. One of the big components of stewardship is assessment and monitoring. So we do. We just received an RBC grant, which will be. We'll have a big kickoff on June 4th. And that's a $90,000 grant to look at the Alberni Inlet and all the inputs into the inlet, including, but not limited to, storm drain sewers, industrial and commercial waste, boating, and any other types of impacts to the inlet. And the idea is to look at what's happening out there, assess it, get a good snapshot, and then look at ways to slowly improve that over time. Though we recognize it has improved in the last 20 years, we still think there's more can be done. Education. So education is one of our key things. So we run a number of programs. So we've sent kids on a lot of field trips in the last few years to Banfield and to Ucluelet. We've fundraised so that kids could get a chance to do these sort of hands-on activities. And another project we've done is the Source to Sewer, which is a project where we take grade 7 or 8 kids, and we take them to the City Works Yard, introduce them to the City Works staff, and then we go on a tour up to China Creek, which is the intake for the water for the valley, and we show them the actual intake pipe, and we follow that pipe through to the UV station where the water gets treated. We take them in to show them how it gets treated, and then we take them to the water reservoir, and then we take them out to the lagoons. And the whole time we tell them, now you know when you go into your house, you know where the water comes from, and when you go to the bathroom, have a shower, this is where the water goes, and this is how people change water. So, you know, I mean, there's activities people can do to conserve water and to not put things into systems that are going out to the ocean. So now going back to the aquarium, because we've spent so much time and so much effort sending these students to other communities to learn about the ocean, it just, you know, I suppose I was fundraising for 8th Avenue and I was sending them out to Ucluelet, and I just started thinking, why am I doing this? Like, we have an inlet right here. It's ridiculous that I'm sending these kids, you know, out to these other communities an hour and a half away over somewhat dangerous roads at such high cost, when there's this amazing resource right outside our own front door that we're not even kind of celebrating, and people aren't really touching. So the idea for the Alberni Aquarium was born. So we embraced that, and we were able to get funding for the bulk of it. So we had funding from Island Coastal Economic Trust. We had quite a bit of our own funding. We got money from the community forest, and we got money from Pacific Salmon Foundation, and then we had several donors like the Shannons and the Edgels and other people who kicked in some money. We had to take a loan to complete the last part of it, so we're hoping to pay that off this year. And our goal for that is just for people to come in there, have a hands-on interactive experience, and learn about the ocean that's right out their front door. This aquarium, we've partnered up with Vancouver and Ucluelet Aquariums to provide like a really good experience and to learn from them, and we're still partners with them. So the chairs of those aquariums have been instrumental in helping us decide how we wanted this aquarium to look. We decided to take a little bit of a different approach than what's offered at other places. So we went with an ecosystem-based approach, and we were thinking about how we could represent Port Alberni. And the idea was to go sort of a mountains to the oceans way, rather than just an ocean-based way, because in Port Alberni being an inlet that goes deep into the mountains, and because of the beautiful mountains we have here, we wanted to recognize and celebrate those. So when people come into the aquarium, they start at the beginning, and we immediately are in a freshwater ecosystem. And so when they come there, they're looking at different species of salmon, and it's like a salmon stream. And so then the next tank is an estuary tank. And so we have estuary creatures there, and interpretation talking about estuaries and wetlands and how people can protect those. And then going into an intertidal zone. And then as you follow, and then we also have in our aquarium trees and birds and bears and things that aren't typically found in an aquarium. And we do that because we wanted to connect people, you know, the ocean to trees and the forests to oceans, and show people that it's all connected. So then we have a deep subtidal and a shallow subtidal tank. So people kind of take the same journey that a salmon would take going through the aquarium. And then we have 4 touch tanks at the back, so people can get their hands, we call it touch the stars, so people can do little touches of starfish and anemones, and they can actually feed the anemones, and they can learn that these creatures that look kind of like a plant or a flower are actually alive. And we have a 400-year-old cedar tree. Getting it there was quite a challenge. We had Western Forest Products donate it to us. And we had kind of given up on getting the tree. It was like a big thing for us to have this tree that people could enter and kids could play in. And then because of some problems that they were having, they told us they weren't able to do it. So in the meantime, we installed our tanks. And then when they suddenly said, oh, you know what, we've got that tree. It's actually here. It's at Somass. You can have the tree. So we went to pick it up. It was like too heavy to pick up with HIAB. So they had to cut it in half, and then it was still even too heavy, so they had to cut it lengthwise. So we got it transported over to SO Beach, and then we brought it inside to get it carved and to fit it and to stand it up. And we only had like an inch clearance on either side of the tree, so getting it in was through these glass doors was like super tricky. And then once we got it in, we had to stand it up, so we had Port Boathouse come with a forklift and pull this thing back, and all our tanks were in there, and it was extremely stressful. So when you go to visit the aquarium, that was a lot of work on that tree in there. So what we offer there is self-guided tours, community tours, and school-based tours. So we have, people can come in, we have summer staff there. People can come in and we can walk them through the exhibits and explain what's going on. Or they can phone and book, and then we kind of do a tour. Or with school groups, what we do is we book them and they do certain activities with us. And we also do preschool activities as well. So one of the other main goals of this is to attract tourists to the valley. So the way that we've set it up is when tourists come in, and we're seeing quite a few tourists already, like the minute we were open we had tourists coming in there, is we try to direct them, you know, here's a freshwater tank and these are these salmon, but if you want to go see it in the real world, you can go out to Robinson Hatchery, you can go out to McLean Mill, you can go to these streams and you can see these fish for yourself. Here's an estuary, you know, situation. Here's where you can go to look at that. There's different estuaries in the Barkley Sound. And, you know, I mean, you can obviously take an ocean charter and go and look at these other things. So the idea is to send people out to see this in the real world. So in terms of impact on the community, so we have actually 7 summer students now that are funded. We have another person who's funded through a work employment program. Community Living is going to have people working with us. And at the high school, we have students that are exchanging their labor for credits. So they'll work for us for 100 hours and then they'll get 3 credits toward graduation. And it's been really popular. We had 21 students come to the training session, and of those 21 students, we've had 14 of them come and volunteer. And generally, we have on the weekends 4 to 5 of these grade 10 to 12 students. So it's just been hugely helpful for them. And because one thing about running an aquarium is, you know, I mean, you have to do volume calculations because we create our own water there. So in order to make the tank saline enough, we have a reservoir tank, and so students have to do volume calculations around water when they do water changes. So it's really helping them with their math skills, which is an unintended consequence, and with science because they're learning about biology and also learning just care for the ecosystems and just learning about the ecosystems in a really hands-on way. So it wasn't something I totally foresaw, but it's really nice to see the impact on these young people in our community and how they're getting so much out of the aquarium. Okay, so where are we? We're down at Harbor Key, right across from Starboard Grill, and it's the way that we've structured the fees are it's $5 per person. Children under 5 are free, and people can pay a $25 annual membership. If they're a family of 4 or more, then we reduce that to $20 so that it's affordable for people. And the reason we chose such a low price point is to achieve volume as opposed to you know, making it inaccessible to local people who might not be able to afford a higher price point. Because when we looked at other aquariums and used them as a guide, the prices were considerably higher, and we weren't sure that that would work in Port Alberni. So the business plan that we did for the Island Coastal Economic Trust showed us that this was probably the lowest we could go and still be sustainable. So we're kind of riding that edge, but it's the idea behind the aquarium is to be a community space, kind of like a pool or a library, and to provide a service for the community as well as being, you know, something for tourists to come and see. So the goal behind it is to, you know, while it produces revenue, because it does produce revenue, it's more to not be a profitable, you know, just to generate profit for the sake of profit, but rather to generate profits to keep itself functioning and to keep it sustainable and to make sure that it's here for the 20 years that we have leased with the city, as well as to provide, you know, monies for habitat restoration and stewardship projects that we do. So yeah, so that was like a lot of talking.
Questions?
I actually have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, what is fry salvage?
Okay, so what happens with salmon is when they return, they lay their eggs in creeks and streams, And sometimes when we have a hot summer like we're going into right now, those creeks and streams will dry up. So the fish have emerged from the eggs, and they're like about this big, and they're swimming around, and then they get, the stream gets disconnected because it'll dry up in certain spots. So then you'll get a pool of water, and no way for the fish to escape. So as the water level drops, the fish die from a lack of oxygen, or they just get eaten. So that you can see tens of thousands of fish die that way in a hot year. So what we do is we have summer students who go out, and we don't, like, I mean, a certain amount of fry salvage is natural and normal. So we don't do it with every stream, but in a stream that the reason that's happening is because of human impact, we go and we move the fish further down.
Okay, my second question is, since you've been open, what would be your daily attendance for people coming in, or weekly?
So we have, I'm just trying to think about so we have probably just looking at the numbers here. It's hard because our numbers our membership and our admissions are still attached together. So I look at the money numbers. I don't look at the.
Okay.
So we have about $185 a day during the week, and about $1,200 on each weekday, and about $2,000 on like a holiday has been what we've had so far. And then we've got additional income from school groups.
That's very encouraging.
It's very encouraging. Yeah, it has exceeded what I have put in my business plan for sure. And our memberships, I had done a very modest, calculation for memberships, because other communities haven't really, the membership model hasn't worked that well for them. So basically for $25 a year, what people can do is they can come to the aquarium anytime, basically, right? And so that was determined because most people will visit an aquarium 4 to 6 times in a year. So basically, if you visit it 5 times, then you've made or 6 times, then you've made your money back. But what we find is that people actually come all the time to it. So we've got some little kids that come every day, right? They live in the neighborhood and they drag their parents down there every single day, which is great because they're learning so much when they're there. We have kind of a classroom corner. So we put activities out there. So we have a lot of, right now, like New Chalmers activities and toys and interpretation. And we kind of change it up all the time. So when they come, they're learning different things, right? And so one of my big things is, like, I'm a big science and math person for kids. And so we try to have that science and math there. So people are kind of doing little experiments and playing around with science. So they're not afraid of it, right? And they're learning.
One more question.
Yeah, sure.
Your annual membership, is that per person or is that per household?
Per person.
Okay.
Yeah. So a family of 4 will pay $80,
Right.
which is pretty reasonable, right? So, and the idea behind the memberships is, right now, like, we did a soft opening on May 1st because we wanted to, we had the number 7 steam train challenge, and the Chamber of Commerce wanted to have something down there. So we were just going to open and then kind of close and then have our grand opening on June 4th, which is our grand opening, by the way, so you're all welcome. But it went so smoothly and so well that we just decided to stay open. So we've just kind of been working our way with people, because now we're open 7 days a week from 10 to 5. So now it's a little more difficult for staff to do other things that we had planned on at this time. But it's working really well. And the next stage is to have member sort of events. So if you're a member, you can come to the event for free, such as like when we're going to be inviting the Private Managed Forest Council to come and speak. So people who are members can come for free, and other people can pay $5. And people will get their membership worth paid for that way. So we've got 200 paid members right now. And we hadn't even anticipated having really that many. And I expect that'll go up over the summer, and as people see the value that we bring to it. So a membership-based, because I'd rather have I'd rather see if we can get membership to pay for what it is, and then have people kind of drive the space, because it's a really cool space. And there's a lot of things people can do there. Because we have set it up so you can do a tour with like a classroom activity and touch tanks at the end. And people do that, and they come in there. People come in with their grandkids all day long, especially right now during the day. Like, because it's air conditioned and it's nice in there, and it's just a nice ambiance, right? And then they'll come in and then they'll go across the park, or they'll go get some lunch, or they'll go get a donut, and then they just can get a stamp and they come back in, and then kids will play in the back, or they'll go in the tree, or they'll go in the Aquadome or something like that. And so they'll spend like a couple hours down there, which we didn't really think, right? But then you can also take the way you can't kind of imagine it right now, but there's a panel down the middle, and you can take the panels out and you can have the whole space and have like a birthday party or an event there.
Well, you're making me ashamed that I haven't been down there yet.
You gotta come down and see it, it's great. Yeah, exceeded our expectations.
Just have one question, on the membership. Do you have like a corporate membership? I'm just thinking like a service club bought a membership, because youth is a priority with our club.
Yeah.
That if we bought a sort of a corporate membership, that then we could also offer it to some underprivileged people, kids, to go through it.
Well, I'd
Is that
love
an
to
option?
do, yeah, I mean, I haven't quite got that far with the pricing yet, because this, you know, I mean, we were working, the pricing's just been a bit of a tricky dance, right? But what we were thinking of doing is having sort of sponsorship levels where you could, like, say you paid $1,000 a year, then you could have like so many people could go for free so many times or something like that, right? You know, or you could do 500 or something like that. Because the thing is, we don't want this to be onerous for anybody, right? But if people who are more well off can afford to help those, you know, and we're located in an area where there's a lot of kids, and a lot of kids who could really benefit by the programs and activities we're doing there. So, you know, if there's organizations that can help out and provide free passes to kids or free memberships to families, that would be fantastic. So that's kind of what I'm working my way through now, is what does that look like. But my thought is basically, if you say we're going to do this much a year and support it to this level, then we just work out, well, how many people can come for that. And we've done that with one of the local houses that helps people with sort of addictions problems. What they did was they just bought a membership, but because their clientele kind of rotates, you couldn't attach it to a person really, because they want it to be for people who are in that particular facility. So, and they're actually they want to come and actually help us do some tank cleaning and stuff too. So what we've done with them is the membership just is under their name, like the organization name, and then so they can come with their membership card, but it just has an organization name on it, so that's how we're managing it. So it could be something similar for an organization, like it just could be the name of the organization, and if the person has the card, like they pick the card up somewhere and they come with the card, or that's how it's working.
Do you have a lot of volunteers?
We're always looking for more, especially in the day, because what's happened for us right now is I have summer students, but the summer student rounds, I got more summer students, but the time was shortened. So normally I have them for 14 weeks, and this year I only have them for 9. So I'll run out of their funding like at the end of June 30th. And then I have 7 New Chalmette employment and training project students, but they're only for 8. And I don't want to leave my students without employment, like only 9 weeks employment. So we're going to pay them and keep them anyway out of our revenue. Then we also have the ADSS students. But what we're missing is, you know, we need those volunteers in the day that are just a little more mature, you know, and can help. So if you know anybody who wants to volunteer in the day, it's so appreciated, especially going into September with those school groups, because when you've got like a school group in there, it's just nice to have more people, right? And just to guide people around. We had a group of 40 kindergartners last Friday, and we had 3 volunteers and 2 staff and me, and because the 40 works for the school, because then it's 1 bus. And it's the busing that's the problem sometimes, because we've made it so it's $2 a kid and the adults are free. Because we can't really go much cheaper than that, right? But that's a pretty good deal. So but then the busing, right? And so the busing challenges. So they sent these 40 kindergartners down. So what we did was we just divide them up into 5 groups of 8, so the kids can actually get a good experience, you know, because you need little ones to be in a small group. And we just rotated them through. And when they left, we were all like, oh, but it actually worked, and we've got another group of 40 kindergartens coming next week. But it's nicer, like today we had 20 kindergartens, and it was fantastic. Like that was just the perfect. And then people can come in and they can still come through, because we don't close the aquarium, so people can still come through and decide if they want to be there when the kindergarten kids are there. And some people like it, like, you know, and a lot of artists are coming down there now because you can capture the image of these fish. They're so close to you. So people come and they just sit in front of the tanks and they like are sketching these different sea creatures, and because they would never get to see them that closely, really, like, or very fleeting, right? So yeah, so that's the aquarium.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.